So it's not exactly the best day for going out and doing photographs. Very dark and grey and alternating between light rain and chucking it down. But I'm heading up to Pucks Glen because I'm hoping the river is going to be really full and dramatic. Maybe some nice big waterfalls. The stream behind my caravan is pretty full, and that's usually quite a good indicator of how much water's coming off the hills. And also I was starting to see a lot of waterfalls in the hills across from the loch that I don't normally see, so there's a lot of water about, and I'm hoping some of that will be in Pucks Glen. Yep, this is a lot more lively than the last time I was here. This river is looking good. In fact, I think it might actually be the highest I've seen it while I've actually been visiting the Glen. But okay, let's see if we can get some photographs. Okay, here's a wee trick that I use when it's raining. You take a poly bag and you cut a hole in the end, and then you cut your lens hood and you pop it through, or at least you try and pop it through. Because you do want the tape to be quite tight, so okay, so at that point you can pop your lens hood on, and you have a makeshift lens cover. Oh. Got it. I think I got a few decent shots, but I'll talk you through what I normally do for shots like this, just as the rain comes on even heavier. Right, so I use horizon leveling to make sure the camera is pretty much straight. There's very low light in the Glen, so autofocus won't work. So generally what you'll do is just zoom in, part of your image, and then just use manual focus to get your focus right. Because like I say, there's just not enough light for autofocus. And for the Glen, I'm normally underexposed by about a stop. Just because you get so much glare off the water in a long exposure. And then finally, I use a timer. And the reason for the timer is so that you're not introducing camera shake by pressing when you press the shutter. So you press the shutter, the camera settles down and then the photograph is taken. But given that there's so much water hitting the tripod, I'm not really sure that makes much of a difference, to be honest. So let's have a go. So that's the timer going. And it's about a 10-second exposure. Maybe 12 seconds. And there we go. And then press the play button to check the shot, and I can immediately see with that misty look that the lens is steamed up. So basically this is the one I took before, and this is the one that's come out there, so I'm going to have to demist the lens. Okay, let's have another go. Like I said, this is a much cheaper rain mat for the camera. It's basically just a see-through poly bag. Cut the corner off it and then tape it up, and as you get a cheap lens hood. Right, let's see how this turned out. Yeah, that's better. You zoom in. You can see it's a little bit clearer. Okay, on to the next shot, I think. Right, I'm going to go for like a water trail here and try and get that waterfall in the distance. Right, it's getting really dark now. Yeah, try and get a little bit of everything in this shot. Okay, that looks decent. I'll just lock that. Yeah. I think we're going to need a much longer exposure. In fact, a longer exposure is not going to do it, so I'm going to have to do up my camera sensitivity. So it's about that. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to check focus here because everything's either moving or in the darkness, but you try and look for somewhere with a high contrast. Like there. You can see you got the contrast there of the water and the black rock. So I basically do it out of focus either side until you get what you think is a good focus. Okay, so yeah, let's just move that round just a little bit. Normally I'd like to try and get things on the thirds, the rule of thirds. So if you split your screen into like 2 lines down and 2 lines across. That means the screen is split into, you know, 3 columns and 3 rows, and I like to try and get, normally I'd like to try and get that maybe down here, but I want to try and get more of this in here as well. Okay, I'll probably, it's 30 seconds this exposure, so I'll probably cut at some point. Okay, 30 seconds done. Let's have a look. Yeah. The water's quite well exposed, but the bridge is very underexposed. So what I'm going to do is do a second photograph and bring up the exposure for the bridge and see if that makes a difference. So yeah, let's, well, we can't go longer than 30 seconds, so let's increase the ISO. You're looking for this to be in the middle, which usually means a good exposure. Now, like I said before, I usually underexpose by a stop if there's a lot of water in the shot, because it gives you a false reading. But somewhere like this where there's a lot of darkness and not a lot of light water, we'll try and go for the proper exposure. And I'm using area metering mode as well, which takes in everything in the shot to try and work out what the proper exposure is. And there we go. You can still see the bridge a little bit better, but the water doesn't seem overly overexposed. So I think we could keep that. I don't think I have to do what they call exposure blending, which is to bring 2 different shots of different exposures together to try and balance out the exposure. I think that last shot will do it. Right, let's go on. Wow, this is definitely the highest I've seen this water. Definitely. I'm going to have to think twice before going into it, I think. Right, I think this might be quite a nice shot. The sometimes waterfall is very, very definitely here. So I'm going to maybe try and shoot down there. I think I'll probably put the camera in vertical mode to try and catch more of that waterfall. But we'll see how it goes. It's starting to get quite wet now. Right. I think vertical definitely works best for this shot. Oh, the ground is really, really soft here. But that shot I just took there, that's how it came out. I'm going to have to check the focus on it though, because it was just so dark. I just used the same focus point as last time, so I'm not sure if that bridge there is going to be in focus. I'm just going to have to. Let's have a quick look. It's always a way. This is always a good way of checking your focus. Yeah, it's not ideal, but good enough. Given the conditions, it's good enough. I'm finding with almost every shot I'm having to raise the ISO level just one little bit more each time. So it just goes to show you how quickly the light is falling. But yeah, I'm actually down in the river now. And I want to try and I've basically moved the camera into a horizontal shot. And I want to try and get that river there with the waterfall here Now, in an ideal world, if it wasn't absolutely pouring with rain, I would change my lens and go for my 12 to 24mm lens, which is much wider and can take in a lot more of this view. But I'm not going to change lenses while it's raining, that's just asking for trouble. Right, here we go. So this is the latest shot. Quite pleased with that. But what I'll probably have to do though is, you can see how blue the water is there, although it's not so blue there. So I've got a decision to make as to whether to do some white balancing in that, or maybe even just leave it as it is, because I quite like that sort of blue tint for this particular photograph. And again, just check focus. Yeah, that doesn't seem too bad. Right, since I'm down in the water here, I'll maybe do one more shot. Right, I think I'll maybe just try and find one more shot to do, because it's getting very dark now. You can probably hardly see me now. And when you're in the water, you can't actually see how deep it is because there's not enough light, and it's getting very wet as well. I'm getting a bit wet, so one more shot I think. Okay, I thought I was finished, but you probably can't really see it very well, but as I was coming out, I loved the way the light was coming through the trees up there. And then you've got a lovely leading line of both the river and the path. So I thought I would try and take a shot, which was pretty difficult because there was nothing to lock onto. It was just pure blackness through the viewfinder. But I took a test shot, and that is it. And sometimes what I do with the test shots is I then use that as the basis to make some adjustments. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to increase the sensitivity in the camera just a little bit, maybe another stop, and I'm going to move it to the right a little, so I'm getting more of the river and less of the embankment here. So I'm just going to do that now and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, that's the second shot done, and as you can see it's much brighter. Truth be told though, I'm not sure which one I prefer, that one or the slightly underexposed one, because I kind of like the moodiness coming through the trees there. But in saying that, yeah, you still kind of get a misty feel here, still looks quite misty. So yeah, I'll maybe keep the second one. Yeah, focus isn't ideal though. Yeah, the focus is okay in the... Yeah, the focus is okay around about the mid-range. But then backgrounds that are far away, being out of focus is, you know, I think it's reasonably acceptable. If I had more time and more light, I would focus stack it, which means taking one shot at one focus closer, and then changing the focus point to be on the trees further back and taking a second shot, and then using a combination of the two photographs to give you a much better focus overall. But nah, it's too dark to do that. Right, I'm heading back to the car now. I'm absolutely soaked, everything is steamed up, and I'm almost out of battery as well. I'll be honest, if it wasn't for the rain, I think I would have stayed in the glen much longer. Although it was almost pitch black, there were some really nice shots coming out, because like I say, when you've got the darkness like that, the colours can be very saturated. Beautiful long exposures, milky water, pretty moody as well. But if it hadn't been raining, then I could have used whatever lens it made sense to use, whereas I was pretty much stuck with my 24 to 70. Yeah, and I could have changed batteries, I could have changed lenses, all of which is difficult to do when it's pouring with rain, and like I say, you're just asking for trouble. But I'm going to go back to the car and then back to the caravan and try and dry out for a bit. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm not entirely sure how much of the commentary you were able to hear over the roar of the water. It was loud. The water in that glen was really loud. So I have a horrible feeling that probably half my monologues, mutterings, wanderings and ditherings were almost inaudible, but we'll just have to see. Anyway, thanks for watching.